Thank you very much for staying. Welcome to the market, please. Now, African leaders and ministers of trade will be adopting a document for the Continental Free Trade Zone area, among other countries, African countries. This will be the beginning of the implementation process for the trade agreement between African countries, which is expected to improve intracontinental trade Africa. This was disclosed by Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry Carlos Ahenkra in an interview at the 5th edition of the Crystal Ball Africa in Accra. The Deputy Minister also assured the agreement will not distract the fight against foreign retail in the Ghanaian markets.
It is by the end of March, leaders of Africa are supposed to sign this document into action, and by 2020 we should see a remarkable development where we'll be heading towards the 2063 achievement or the goals. What we see here basically is a situation where we will have the opportunity to compete with the giants of this world, the Asian tigers, and of course the Indians of this world, and so on, and also be able to competitively send our products outside the borders of our countries and of course our continent to have an external visibility and be able to drive foreign investments into the continent. So basically we are looking at a situation whereby we're going to expand our scope to get our products and trading going better.
It's not going to affect our fight against trade on the retail market by foreigners, because you know how our traders have been fighting these people, and now there's going to be a free continental trade. These people are going to come in again. They are going to compete with our people on the retail space. It's not going to affect it.
No, well, I don't think so. I think that it is rather a situation which calls for people or manufacturers in Ghana to also look at going beyond the borders of Ghana. You see, what I see here is this. Countries don't trade. Companies trade. But countries go in to broker for these integrations and these regional corporations. But when we come back and we don't get the companies involved, then we get stagnant and we don't get to move forward and get that kind of response that would have expected our trade cooperation to yield. So it is important that in coming up to this point, we will start that education early and let our manufacturers, our companies in Ghana understand the concepts of CFTA, so that they know that their scope today is not only going to be with the confines of Ghana, or not even within the confines of the West Africa sub-region, but it can export freely to Egypt, it can export freely to South Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya. If this works out, then people cannot complain that we are having an influx of goods coming into Ghana. You also send your goods outside and let us have an equal movement of trading. Because from my little knowledge of physics, they say action and reaction are equal and opposite.
Now, moving on, government ended last year missing out slightly on the end-of-year inflation target for December 2017. Managers of the economy were looking at closing the year with 11.2%, but achieved 11.8%. But what accounted for this, and what were the drivers of this marginal increase in inflation from November to December? Let's now listen to acting government statistician Ba Wadie.
In December 2017, the year-on-year inflation rate was 11.8%, as compared with a rate of 11.7% recorded in November 2017. The monthly change rate in December 2017 was 1.0%, compared with a rate of 0.9% for November 2017. Now, the year-on-year non-food inflation rate for December 2017 was 13.6%, which was the same as the rate recorded in November 2017. And the year-on-year food inflation rate for December 2017 was 8.0%, as compared with a rate of 7.9% recorded in November 2017. And the year-on-year non-food inflation rate is more than 1.5 times that of the food inflation rate. That is 13.6% as compared with 8.0%. And in December 2017, the year-on-year inflation rate for imported items was 2.5 percentage points higher than that for locally produced items. That is 13.6% as compared with 11.1%. The main price drivers for the non-food inflation rate were clothing and footwear with a rate of 18.8%, transport 18.7%, recreation and culture 17.5%, and furnishings, household equipment, and routine maintenance a rate of 15.2%. And the price drivers for the food inflation rate were vegetables a rate of 10.0%, and fish and seafood a rate of 8.8%. And the price drivers are the subgroups with the high price changes over the year.
Meanwhile, acting government statistician Ban Wadie has been justifying the need for Ghana to rebase its economy and said it's set to review the way it calculates inflation. In an interview with Joy Business, he said the previous rebasing exercise did not include the comprehensive coverage of oil and gas as well as the telecommunications sectors. Ban Wadie noted the current exercise will offer an opportunity to account for the total growth of the economy.
The essence of the rebasing is to actually have a good look at the nature of the economy, the actual components of the economy, the shares of the various sectors, the contribution of the various sectors to the economy, and what new activities are currently prominent in the country. It wasn't the full component of oil that was captured. In fact, it was only the production that was put in, and that even the real share was some form of adjustment because we had earlier rebased, taking into account the situation in 2006 before we factored in oil in, I think, 2010, 2011. So there is the need to actually situate the real contribution of oil, both upstream, downstream, and other investments in oil. There's a need to situate them in the entire production process within the country. Apart from that, we would take advantage of this rebasing to use best practice methodology for computing our GDP. We intend to move from the current system of the national accounts computation, which dates back into, I think, 1993, to use the 208 system of national accounts. This has certain features which were not in the previous methodology. So this we want to introduce so that, one, we can measure better, and two, we can also compare better. And these are things that we need actually to do. You recall that in 2006, activities like communication were not that prominent. Mobile phone, data, and other issues were not prominent in the economy. These are taking center stage in the economy. ICT, data, communications are now very prominent. You also recall that a lot of investments, even in infrastructure, in 2006 have changed. And
now, we would like to stay on this topic further and then to look at the implication of this development, that the current increase when it comes to how the economy was managed last year. I've been joined in the studio by economist Courage Marty. He's with Data Bank. He's here to help me do some analysis on this particular topic. Courage, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Now, should government be worried not meeting its targets at the end of the year?
No, not at all. Government should not be worried, because if you look at what happened during the 12 months of 2017, there was a general decline in inflation, and cumulatively we saw 6.3% decline in inflation from 15.4% at the start of 2017 now to 11.8%, 0.6% higher than what government thought it would achieve. But if you look at the trend, it was an improvement on the inflationary environment, partly because the budget ensure that certain cost pressures were contained. And that's good news for what the government was seeking to achieve. So you shouldn't be worried at all.
And what are the implications as it is for the economy?
Well, basically, the immediate implication you want to read is that, we're all looking forward to continuous easing of monetary policy, continuous easing of credit conditions so that businesses can have access to cheaper credit. It appears that we'll have to wait a little longer because what it means is that the central bank will now have to be taking calculated steps in the monetary easing cycle.
And on businesses, I mean, how does it?
Well, basically, higher rates of inflation will mean that purchasing power is being deprived. And so once the rate of inflation remains at a certain high level, businesses may not feel confident enough that when they produce, there will be so much demand for them. And so I hope that this does not negate the positive confidence that we have, sentiments that we have currently. I mean, I'm not sure it's high enough to even negate all the gains that was made during 2017. So businesses should not also be worried at all.
And I hope certainly it's not like a turnaround in the consistent path to which inflation has declined in the past.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope so. But in 2018, there are certain policy measures that must be implemented to ensure that this increase is not sustained, that we reverse back to a downward path, because in the last 2 consecutive months, we've seen an increase in the rate. So, but we are expecting that the 2018 budget has some positive things that can trigger a sustained decline in inflation.
Right. Now, yesterday, there was some kind of controversy on this rebasing exercise that is coming up, and some economists differed in opinions, and of course the PF, the Private Enterprise Federation, said it will serve as a disincentive to businesses and cut further aid to support businesses and the economy as a whole. Now it looks like the acting cabinet statistician is justifying rebasing of the economy. What's your take on that?
Well, I would also justify it, and I would justify it because it is important to see yourself in the appropriate light than seeing yourself in a way that you are not actually the way you are. So rebasing the economy is just an attempt to ensure that the correct figures for the economy are churned out. If that means that we are bigger than we initially thought, it will impose a lot more responsibility on the managers of the economy to get what they need to get out of the economy, because if you have a bigger GDP, what it means is that your tax that you are collecting should be higher than you are collecting. So you need to work a lot more to expand your tax net. So you are taxing
and not necessarily increasing
not
taxes.
necessarily, exactly. So I was coming to that. So it means that you are taxing a few people higher than you should be taxing them. So you should spread the net because the base is bigger than you initially thought.
What about the picture it is creating out there in the investment community?
Well, the picture it will create is that you are bigger than you initially thought you are, right?
Doesn't mean you don't need help anymore?
Well, not necessarily. Maybe it will mean that the kind of help you need is not what you are currently getting. For instance, the aid we get currently is support for certain sectors of our of government budget, but probably we need direct investment in certain areas, trade relationship and not aid relationship. And so the help may now have to recalibrate it to improve.
Now, will oil and gas and telecommunications alone make a huge difference when the economy is rebased?
Maybe not necessarily, because you need to realize that oil is already part. There's just some few computational or components that will now have to be included, which may not make significant impact to the total computation.
Many thanks for your time, Courage Marty. Courage Marty is an economist from Data Bank. He's been sharing his thoughts on the current development, where we're witnessing a marginal increase in inflation from 11.2 to 11.8 in December. He's also been sharing his thoughts on the rebasing of the economy. Away from that, Unique Insurance says meeting the new increase in the minimum capital requirement for the insurance sector is a step in the right direction. National Insurance Commission is considering second quarter of this year as a possible implementation date for the new capital level. Managing Director of Unique Insurance, Victor Obing Edia, was speaking at the launch of the company's travel insurance policy here in Accra.
After firming up the proposed increase in minimum capital requirements for insurance companies, some industry players continue to react to the new levels. Unique Insurance Company is the latest to declare its readiness to meet the increase. Managing Director of Unique Insurance Company, Victor Obin-Ediya, explains the impact of the increment.
Talking to the regulators, they felt we should increase our capacity by increasing our net worth. And so that could lead to mergers and acquisitions. Yeah, that's the decision to be taken by shareholders, but not the managing director of company. But I feel if we become very strong, it will be good for the economy. We should be able to underwrite bigger deals. And there's also another school of thought that, hey, allow the small ones to be on the market to write according to their capacity. You know, so these are things to be decided finally by the insurance. But generally, if you have bigger capacity, you're able to write bigger deals, and capital flights from the country will reduce. Then we're going to get more money to grow the economy. So I think it's better we increase our capitalization.
In another development, Commissioner of Insurance Justice Ofori backtracked on his assertion that an insurance company was expected to be shut down by December 2017. At another function last year, he told Joy Business one insurance company would certainly close down by the set date.
We have a couple of them, and we're dealing with them. Some of them are actually going to be asked to actually leave the market. Some of them have been asked to actually inject more capital. But there's a deadline given by the Commission to all these companies. If they don't meet the deadline, then we are actually going to trigger the process of shutting them down. We've actually, I think there's one company we've already triggered the process of shutting them down. So we're looking at how we deal with existing customers, you know, and then maybe transferring them to another company so that they still have coverage.
However, the insurance commissioner says that communication was not well understood by some players in the industry.
What I was trying to say is that we identified one or two companies that were struggling, and we had given them up to September to put their acts together. And then if they don't put their acts together, then we probably have to trigger the process and then see what to do. We didn't say for certain that we're actually going to close down any insurance company.
The commissioner spoke at the launch of Unique Travel Insurance Policy in Accra. The launch was in partnership with Trust Reinsurance.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Aviation Minister Cecilia Dapa has highlighted the need for insurance companies to underwrite policies for local flight travels, as well as to assist in developing the aviation sector.
It is estimated that air traffic to, from and within Africa will grow by about 6.1% annually over the next 20 years, according to IATA figures. Significantly in Ghana, the growth rate is in the average of 7.9% per annum. What this tells us as stakeholders is that a huge door of opportunity is open, that we need to be tailoring products and services for the demanding clientele. Insurance policies are prerequisites for modern air travel to guarantee a safe and secure travel. I also want to make an appeal to insurance company to also involve the local travelers. Both road and air, rail will come on board very soon because we are all travelers. It should be an all-encompassing policy to involve all travelers. Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me, on behalf of the government of the Republic of Ghana and on behalf of His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, welcome the officials of Trust Re of Bahrain to Ghana. Your investment.
Let's turn our attention away from insurance. The National Food and Buffer Stock Company, NAFCO, has so far purchased about 13 million Ghana cedis worth of maize and rice under the Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. The National Food and Buffer Stock Company, among other things, is mandated by government to mop up excess produce from all farmers in order to reduce post-harvest losses as well as manage emergency food security situations. Speaking to Joy Business, the chief executive of the company, Abdul Wahab Hanan, said the current stock levels received so far is positive.
According to the National Food and Buffer Stock Company, harvest is currently underway in the 3 northern regions, the Ashanti, Brongahafo and Eastern regions. In an interview with Joy Business, the Chief Executive Officer of NAFCO, Abdul Wahab Hanan, explained the company so far has spent about 13 million cedis for stocks purchased.
So far, we have collected about 70,000 metric tons of maize and 38,000 metric tons of rice. We have bought worth a little over 30 million Ghana cedis that we have duly paid for, and we have a set of invoices that are going through the processes for payment. So what we have duly paid for now is moving around 30 million Ghana cedis.
Although there have been some disagreements on the farm gate prices being used by licensed buying companies, Mr. Wahab explains the current purchase price of 109 Ghana cedis was settled on upon careful assessment.
There have been several concerns from the leadership of the licensed buying companies about the price. But you see, this price is set up based on the crop budget analysis of that particular year, or the 2017-2018 cropping season, because all factors are brought into consideration: cost of renting of a land, seeding, fertilization, initial weeding, chemical spray, harvesting. It was based on these factors that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture has come out with the minimum guarantee price for a bag of maize at farm gate to be 109, inclusive of the farmer's margin or profit. Then based on that, another cost built up came. Licensed buying companies would go to the farmers, buy at the farm gate 109. They have to transport it. They have to dry it, clean it to the desired moisture content. They have to buy sacks, rebag it. They have to transport it from their aggregation point to a buffer stocks warehouse. So based on that, the price was set up and their margin, and then cost of a facility, if they are going in for a facility to aid them do the work.
The Planting for Food and Jobs initiative is geared towards enhancing the nation's food security.
Now, telecoms giant MTN could soon test run what is being described as the super fast data services to its subscribers, subject to regulatory approval. The 5G service is a very enhanced service over the current 4G offers. It offers clear video, sound quality, and what some are describing as triple speed. This was after MTN South Africa test ran the service in that country.
For now, I don't think we are there yet to get to those sort of things, because 4G in itself has its own problems. People have phones and then the 4G comes on it and then they are not even on 4G and they don't even know. And then also we are still using the archaic sort of phones as at now. So I think for now they should hold on for now. They should just try the 4G, make it a bit bigger, a bit broader.
In this part of our world, our network has always been a problem. I mean, just trying to, let's say, either upload or download something, then it will take all your time. So if that is going to come and it's going to work fast for us, it's going to be something great for all of us. And I'll be very glad to, I wish I'll even be the first person to enjoy that particular 5G.
All right, so those were views of a section of the public on the introduction of the 5G service by MTN Ghana. Finally, before we go, Ghana is home to perhaps what is the largest electronic waste dumping site in the world. Tons of electronic waste are dumped at the Agbogbloshie market here in Accra, a situation that poses a major threat to the environment and human health. Well, some start-uppers are finding use for electronic waste, turning them into 3D printers. Prince Appiah brings up the story of Clark's Tea from Kumasi on this episode of Joy Business Van. Here are excerpts.
Tons of electronic waste dumped every day at Agbogbloshie in Accra. Authorities are trying to figure out ways to deal with what has become a menace. Meanwhile, at Continental, not too far from the center of Kumasi in the Ashanti region, some startuppers are turning electronic waste into something useful: 3D printers. Today, Prince Appiah meets up with one of the brains behind the startup Clark's 3D, Kobna Abeka Paintil.
Clark's basically stands for the first names of the people who started the group. That is Kobna, Loic, Amma, Kweku, and Isaac being the S.
All right, so you can get the full story on Business Live tonight at 5 p.m. And it's a wrap for the market, please, for today. My name is Emmanuel Bachi. Have a good afternoon.